My first ram was with my grandfather in Cornwall. His name was Peter, and he always wanted to introduce me to whiskey. And to be honest with you, I remember my dad was drinking it, and all I'd do is smell it, and it just used to scare me. It was so strong and so peaty, because they were always drinking really strong, peaty whiskies. And my grandfather said, Elliot, you need to try. So he started me off with a Jameson's, which I know is simple, but it is delicious, and we all love it. But after about 6 months, he said, Elliot, you're going on to the real stuff now. So he gave me a Glenmorangie, which was absolutely mind-blowing. I remember this. It was so, so good. And to be honest with you, every time I see the bottle, every time I taste it, it reminds me of him. And he's obviously gone now, which is unfortunate, but cheers to him, for sure. It's a really, really difficult one. But to be honest, if I'm feeling a little bit more adventurous and I've got a little bit more cash in the bank, which is tight at the moment, obviously, it would have to be a Macallan. 18 year is the one. I absolutely adore that. And I mean, for me, it's got that sort of, when you see the bottle, it's got that light golden glow. It's just beautiful, and it's really appetizing, you know? That's for me. Well, today, because no one offered, I've just got it neat, which is absolutely delicious. But if it was my actual choice, I would have a larger glass, 3 ice cubes, singular, I don't like the big one, and then a little suggestion of water. And that water just brings out that fragrance, I find, and it just lightens it up slightly. But it all depends on the whiskey I'm drinking. But for me, if I was in a bar, 3 ice cubes, a suggestion of water, bang. Dreamed ram, I mean, I have had it before, so is it a dream? But I've lived some dreams. The 12-year Balvenie is absolutely fantastic. And I mean, it's very, very special. It is a really special whiskey. And I mean, it goes really well with food as well. It was one of Mark Hicks's favourites. And I always remember there was this one time when I was in the kitchen in Hicks Soho, and he did this beautiful, it was for Burns night, and we always had these wonderful whiskies, and the Balvenie was one of the whiskies he would always go to. And I remember we did this whiskey sauce for the haggis. So it was haggis and neeps. And then we did a creamed whiskey sauce. And when I was a head chef, we were trying to obviously keep in the margins. And I'd used the cheap box whiskey for this sauce. And he comes in and he said, Elliot, what whiskey have you used? He goes, what on earth is this? He made me throw it all in the bin. And he literally got the Balvenie 12-year, flambéed, shallots, all the sauce, made it, and he made me taste the first one and the one with the Balvenie. Just a lot of chefs always think just because you're using whiskey for cooking, it doesn't matter, but it does matter. That flavour, even if you're having a whiskey and coke, a good whiskey and coke tastes better than a Jameson's and coke, for example. Nothing wrong with a Jameson's and coke though. I do drink it, but if you have a really good scotch, an aged scotch with a coke, it's fantastic, and that's the same with cooking. I knew this question was coming, and for me, tasting notes, I mean, I could talk all day about tasting notes, and it's the same with food. And that's the great thing about whiskey, because it is relatable to food. Tasting notes, everyone's got their own opinion. You could tell me this whiskey is peaty. For me, this whiskey just tastes absolutely fantastic, and all of it's got different characters. And at the end of the day, if you're a customer buying whiskey or food, what it may be, your opinion may be very different to mine, but you've got to respect everyone's opinion. So cheers to that. Jack Nicholson. I just think he would be the most unbelievably entertaining person, and with a whiskey with him would be amazing. Wolfgang Puck, just an absolutely culinary legend. Gordon Ramsay as well. I would love to sit with him and have a whiskey. And Elvis Presley, why not? And I think, that would probably... Oh, you know who else? I missed Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe for sure, like an absolute legend as well. And I think that's it. That'll be all right. My favourite whiskey cocktail, obviously everyone's going to say an old-fashioned. Whenever I go to Bar 45, which is where I work, we have Enrico and Mario, who are absolutely fantastic. And I always have an old-fashioned to start, and it will be, I'll swap it out for a Macallan, but one of the cheaper ones. And then they've also brought this most amazing cocktail. It's called a Nuage. And it's clementine, whiskey, and a few other bits in there, honey. It's just a really, really, it's like a light version of an old-fashioned. And it's just a bit, if you don't fancy that sort of, that really strong cocktail, go to the Nuage at 45 Park Lane. That's my fave. Do you know what? That's a really easy answer for me, and it would have to be where I started with my granddad, a Jameson's.